Okay. Now that we have seen how to create a Spring Boot application using GitHub Copilot, which tried to expose 4 endpoints, and these are the 4 endpoints. The first endpoint is to get the stock details of a particular country. The second endpoint is to get the time series of a particular stocks. Third endpoint is to post the data into my H2 database, and the fourth is to get all the stock details of my wishlisted data, which is stored in H2 database. In one of the earlier session, we also created an Angular application, something like this, where we used to call the third-party API directly from the Angular application and used to see the output. So let us see the quick demonstration of that now. So let me go to the terminal and browser and just say localhost 4000. Here you will be able to see the stock details of a particular country. You can move around the country and able to see the stock details, and you will also be able to see the time series of that particular stocks. Not only that, you can add something to your wish list and see the wishlisted data. But the problem with this Angular application that we created is that the Angular application is making the call to the third party API call directly. But this is not the way it has to be done in the real world. In the real world, the Angular application should have something in the background that is running a server which makes a call to the third party API call, get the data and format it and give it to the Angular application. So now let us try to do the same thing now. So here in the Angular application, since this is already making a third-party API call, let's try to get rid of all the third-party API calls that is getting made. Instead, let's make a call from the Angular application to our endpoint that we have exposed using the Spring Boot applications. So for that, let me stop all the application that is running as of now. So instead of making a third-party API call directly, let's create a const URL and try to give the API or the endpoint that we have exposed using the Spring Boot application. The endpoint that is used to get the stock details is the first API. So let me use the same API here. So let me give the endpoint as like this. And instead of giving the country has hard-coded value, let me use a dollar symbol here to give the country name. So how do we get to know how to provide the path variable as the dollar symbol? This we have learned in the previous section on how to send the path variable using the dollar symbol. And we are missing this HTTP. And in the second method, to get the time series value, instead of making a third-party API call, let me go to the next line and just say const URL again. And the Copilot is already trying to give me some suggestions, so let me use that. But the endpoint doesn't exactly match with the endpoint that we have exposed through the Spring Boot applications. So let me go to the Postman and use the endpoint that has been exposed. So Control C and let me paste it here, and sending the symbol has a path variable here. And the next method is to post the wishlisted data or the wishlisted stock. As we already see that how to wishlist the data using the JSON server, which will be running on the localhost 3000. But my Spring Boot application is running on port number 8080 as we already seen. So let me use the endpoint to post the data. So let me Control C, go back and use the same endpoint here. And along with that, how to get the stock details. So this is the endpoint for that. Let me use that and control V. So now I have made all the changes that is required. So let me open up the terminal and let's say npm start. So to summarize what are all the changes that we have done, the only changes that we have done in the service class is that instead of making a call to the third party API here, we have made a call to the localhost 8080 on which is the port number where my Spring Boot application is running. And we have made the changes in all the methods to get the time series value, the post the type wishlisted value to get the wishlisted value. So now it has been compiled. Let me go to the browser. So let me close this and try to spin up the application. So here you will be able to see some of the output and some of the button, but you are not able to see the exact cards or the stock details. Why? Let us inspect that by right clicking inspect, go to the console, and here you will be able to see something that it has been blocked by the CORS policy. So how to resolve this cost policy? Let's take a help of ChatGPT for that. For that, let me go to the ChatGPT. So I have provided the prompt here. The ChatGPT is already providing me some suggestion like what do you mean by cost and how to resolve it using the in the controller layer. So it says in the Spring Boot application, along with the REST controller annotation, I must add also cross origin annotation here, something like this. So let me control C this or copy this, go back to the Spring Boot application, and here in the controller layer, so along with the REST controller annotation, let me go to the next line, and Copilot is already trying to provide some of the suggestion for us. So let me tab it out, but the value doesn't match. So for that, let me paste the value that is already provided by the ChatGPT here. So once the changes has been made, let's rerun the application. So now the application has been rerun, and let us rerun the we just rerun the backend server with the cross origin annotation, and now you will be able to see the list of stocks that you got from the backend basically, and not from the third party API call directly. So I can now go to some of the wish list, some of the countries, and see the stock details of that particular country. I can also see the time series of that particular country here also, and along with that I can add some of the stocks to my wish list, and I can go to the wish list and I'll be able to see this. So how do you get to know that it has been gone to the backend? So here you will be able to see some of the output or the logs in the backend. So this is how we can integrate a Angular application with a Spring Boot application using GitHub Copilot. So thank you.